Call the Honourable Member Ruth Dyson.
Chairman, I'm really pleased to take a brief call on Part 2 of the Social Security Long-Term Residential Care Budget Measures Amendment Bill, and I just want to commend my colleague Chris Foy, the Member of Parliament for Mana, and back up his request to the Minister and the Chair to answer the questions that have been raised during the committee stages. It's not as if we have another opportunity to have these questions addressed. We don't have a select committee process that we could look forward to or look back on. This is it. This is the final stage of the committee stage of this bill, after which we'll move to the third reading, and if the third reading votes follow the pattern of previous votes on this legislation, this will be law before this session of Parliament is over. There is no chance for anyone to have a say. There is no chance for the bigger debate to be had on whether this massive visionary move by the National Party, taking $4.5 million out of the pockets of rest home and hospital care residents, which we are assured by the National Party will save our country's economy, whether this was the best or the only measure to take. That debate cannot be had, and the Minister has not taken the opportunity to justify it. Frankly, on her court, I wouldn't try and justify it either. I wouldn't hold my portfolio in a continuing basis if I was asked to introduce a bill which I didn't agree with, which was offensive and which was wrong. And I'm stunned that the Minister for Social Development, the Minister of Health and the Minister for Senior Citizens haven't considered that as an option. I don't know how they can justify doing this to older people retrospectively, people who are already in residential care, changing the regime under which they bought into a contract to have their final months of life supported in the way that was needed, how they can justify this coming to the House at all, let alone under urgency. Mr. Chairman, earlier on in the debate, we had quite a lot of discussion about how this was signalled to the public. We know that it wasn't mentioned in the budget speech. We certainly know it wasn't mentioned prior to that. It wasn't. Honourable David Carter is in the House, and he will recall the many times that we have stood on public platforms in opposition to each other seeking the candidacy for the Port Hills electorate, and during the last election campaign I listened to every word he spoke. You don't have much option really when you're on the same stage, but I did listen very carefully, and not once did the Honourable David Carter say to the good people in the Port Hills electorate, by the way, we're going to change the asset testing regime for older people. I bet the Honourable Nathan Guy, who was earlier in the chair, didn't mention to his constituents either, and I bet not a single member of the National Party did. This is a dirty little secret that has been kept under wraps by the National Party till not just till the budget speech, but later in the day, because it wasn't mentioned in the budget speech. Suddenly we have a bill on the House of Parliament, and we're told that it's getting rammed through all stages under urgency. Mr. Speaker, the way it was signalled to the public was hidden in a 1.5-line sentence in a press statement by the Honourable Tony Rowan, not even the Minister responsible for it, under the heading, "Health receives largest increase in spending in the budget." How would anybody read that headline and think, oh, they're going to put the asset testing regime onto a holding pattern, they're going to freeze the asset testing threshold? Nobody would have read that press statement and been able to determine the truth, because this is a dirty little secret. It's been kept from the public until after the budget speech was read in the House. It has had no opportunity to go to a select committee, no opportunity to hear from the 170 residents that are affected by this immediately and the others who will be affected in the future. Mr. Chairman, I think it's an outrage. It's a breach of the privilege of this Parliament to use urgency for matters that do require the urgent attention of the House, and the public should, and I'm sure will, feel outraged at this breach.
Mr. Chairman?
I call the Honourable Annette King.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Minister has now resumed her seat in the chair, and I'm asking her once again to answer